Welcome, guys, to episode 5 of Cut the Nets. I'm your host, Jeremy Gretzers, my co host, Brian Ramos. Welcome. We're going to be talking about a bevy of things, of course, as per usual. By the way, episode 5. Congratulations, Brian. Episode 5. We're halfway from a double digit number.
Yeah, man. Cut the Nets. Very excited. Episode 5. Going strong.
Going strong.
New
Keeping it
location
consistent.
back at my college. So excited for episode 5. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, it's good Wi Fi too there. Uh, yeah. So, for basketball stuff, we're going to get to, of course, your Knicks, my Rockets, but we're going to also get to some interesting topics that have to do with stars that are sort of redefining themselves, finding like a new reinvention for themselves. We're also going to be talking about trade rumors and, of course, untapped potential. If we've got a player in mind, but yeah, let's get to it. Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's just start off the bat with that. Right now, currently, as I'm looking at the NBA standings on the Eastern Conference, they are the fourth seed, 27 and 16. They're just kind of hanging along. They're in the middle of the pack when it comes to really good teams. I mean, of course, they're always in contention. They got Doc Rivers as a coach. I mean, of course, Doc Rivers doesn't really have like a great track record when it comes to amazing playoff performances besides '08. But he's got a pretty good team right now, especially with their point guard and James Harden.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good. Definitely playing more team basketball. In his last 6 games, he's had at least 11 assists. So he's doing pretty good. Obviously, also putting up double-digit scoring. So he's getting a double-double twice, actually, in his last 6 games, both against Detroit. He had triple-doubles. And, yeah, the 76ers team is doing good. And that huge offseason acquisition of P.J. Tucker, allowing them to stretch the floor out better, has been good for Philadelphia. They look like a good team this year.
I think so too. I think people are kind of sleeping on them, because they got James Harden, and of course James Harden always chokes. They got Joel Embiid, who probably is going to go through some crazy injury come playoff time, and of course Tobias Harris, maybe a no-show, but you still got Tyrese Maxey, who's done really well, especially when he's on the floor. Um, James Harden, his field goal percentage is back up to where it used to be, but when he was a scorer, when he was a volume shooter. It's back up to about 45% from the field, which is pretty interesting to see. Oh, what? What are we doing here? No. You see, Ryan? You see what's going on here?
What?
We got Randy on here again.
Oh, man.
No. What? What are you doing here? What's up, Randy?
I thought this was an open invitation to come by onto the show, so I figured
it's always an open invitation. It's always
figured
an
I'd
open
stop
invitation.
in and we talk hoops for a couple minutes.
Where are we?
Where are we? A couple minutes. Famous last words.
Yeah.
So where are you? What's the topic right now? So I can.
So we're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers and how they're looking overall as a team, and James Harden more specifically.
Well, it's funny with Harden. I feel like he's one of the most polarizing players in the NBA because you either love him or you hate him. There's no in between. I can't find someone who says, you know what, he's all right. He's, it's not my favorite player, but we like him. I think there's a certain amount of respect around the league for what he's done and what he's accomplished. But the simple fact of the matter is, I can't see him leading a team to a championship.
We have Nate Powalie on the podcast now. We got 4 people now. It's a whole crew.
Hello, boys.
It turns into the best party in town.
Yeah, we were just talking about James Harden and the Philadelphia 76ers. Randy, you could go ahead and continue.
Yeah,
Let me never up.
I don't see him as a guy who can lead a team. I think this is Joel Embiid's team, and Harden. What do they always say? Joel is Batman. James Harden he's either Robin or Alfred. You have to figure out exactly where Maxi lines up.
I think he's moving along where he's kind of like I don't want to say Robin because it feels like a step down, and Harden's more of like the veteran presence because, of course, he's kind of reinventing himself. He's averaging a double double.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. Like, is he Batman or is he Robin? And that's who's the guy at the end of the game? Are you giving the ball to Harden? Are you giving the ball to Embiid? Or are you giving it to one of the other former cast members or one of the cast members there?
I think what you would do is that in order to fake teams out that are trying to get your play style, you pass it to somebody that's like not even supposed to get the ball in the inbound pass, or pass it to a Tony Kukoc of all people. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that. I really do. I'll use the Nets as an example. You know that either Durant or Irving, you want the ball in their hands at the end of the game for that last shot. Okay, so you basically have, that's not a Batman Robin situation. That's a Batman and stunt double Batman.
Batman or Joker who like working together.
I don't know if it's the Joker, but it's definitely a
two powerhouses.
Yeah, you have two powerhouses. With the Bulls, Michael was always the guy. Scotty was Robin, and Kukoc was Alfred or Lucius Fox, whichever one you wanted.
Right. I mean, when you look at
Phil Jackson was Lucius Fox, so he was giving them all the toys to play with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And another team you could look at is the Cavs, and who's really Batman and Robin between in the backcourt, if you will, between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
But you know what, though? I haven't seen enough from that team yet. We've only been like 40-something games into that, what that's going to be. I still think they're still trying to figure out who's getting the basketball where. There's not enough basketballs for that group going around right now. Yes, they're very successful right now. There's about I think the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference are pretty much established at this point. I think you know that it's Boston, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and then Philadelphia. And I think out of the 4, Philadelphia is the one that I look at as the one that would fizzle out or flounder out because there's not a lot of trust in what they have there. I know.
You think so? You think so?
I think I hate to say it. I've talked to Jacques Vaughn since he's become the head coach of the Nets, and from what he says and what Steve Nash says and how the players feel about Jacques Vaughn compared to how they feel about Steve Nash, this is a totally different situation going on in Brooklyn right now. I know a lot of people will come down on the Nets for what happened in the last couple seasons, but look, Durant will be back in a couple weeks, and then you look at the way this team has been playing. Yes, I out of that long win streak they have, how many above 500 teams were really going there that were championship contenders, and I think that's something that you always have to look at during a win streak. But man, that team has really come together. There was that one game against Indiana where we were missing their top 8 players. They gave guys off the arrest, and they played Indiana, and you had Cam Thomas lead the way with 27 points, and they played amazing. So. This is what the team should have looked like last year when they had a veteran group of like Durant and Irving and what they had, and then they had this nice young group of guys coming off the bench and contributing. I think that Brooklyn's not going to flounder out. Milwaukee. I hate that. You guys are going to hate me so much for this.
Milwaukee. They're just always going to be a playoff contender if Giannis.
With Giannis, yeah.
With Giannis. That's it.
But we talk about Batman and Robin and that type of situation.
That's a Batman and Robin. That's definitely Batman and Robin with Giannis and Middleton. That's definitely
I don't look at Middleton that way. I'm sorry. I don't look at Middleton that way. I look at him and Drew Holiday. That's definitely Alfred and Lucius right there. I don't think they have a true number 2. And my big thing with Giannis is still, I hate that he catches the ball in the post, backs the ball out to the 3-point line, then drives into the paint, gets the foul call. If he needs to develop a nice 15, 18-foot jump shot to keep everybody honest, and that's how he becomes. He's a great player already, but just imagine because right now his athletic ability is going to fizzle out, just like Blake Griffin's did, just like Amari Stoudemire's did, Those guys had to learn how to become an all-around player, how to start learning how to shoot jump.
I'm not sure if Giannis has that trajectory. I think Giannis is still going to be a force in the NBA for the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's only 20, 27, 28. Blake Griffin had a multitude of injuries, and Amari Stoudemire had tons of injuries towards the after the 05-06 season with the Suns. And his first year in the Knicks, he was barely approaching 30, and he was pretty much over.
But
so I'm not sure if I agree with that.
But here's the thing, though. We've all said we said the same things about those two guys too, until they got hurt. Giannis is one knee injury.
Yeah, but I always thought like after 2014, Blake Griffin was always going to get injured for some strange reason. Like he would get injured with breaking his hand while he was punching the fire extinguisher. During that season,
there's been
or Blake Griffin. It's just. I can't exactly remember the type of injuries that Blake Griffin had, but it slowed down his athleticism for sure. And now he's a bench player now. And, that year of greatness from 2012 to like 2015, where he would just be bullying everybody on the court, high flying dunks. Giannis has been doing that for the last 7 seasons.
I understand that. But like I said, Bill and I have said the same thing on the show. If Giannis can develop that mid-range jump shot, he becomes the most dangerous player in the NBA. He becomes the most dominant player because that means he can get you from anywhere on the court, just like Hakeem Olajuwon. Olajuwon was able to kill you anywhere on the court. Doesn't matter if it was a three-point line, in the paint, a foul line extended, taking you all over the place. Giannis has that ability. He just has to develop that mid-range jump shot. I know a lot of people don't think it's a big deal, but if you look at it, hindsight being 2020, like I said, he backs the ball out, runs it, catches it in the post, runs it back out, then runs back in the middle, or he's shooting a three-pointer. If he can shoot the three-point, if he can work on shooting a three-pointer, he can work on shooting a 15, 18-foot jump shot.
Yeah, that's fair. You guys have anything to say about that? Any input?
I mean, I agree with that part that he definitely needs to work on a jump shot, but like I just feel like he's still, like Jeremy was saying, athletic enough and fast enough where I don't really see him fizzling out in like that sort of trajectory. Because like the thing with Stoudemire and Blake Griffin is like they had their injuries, but then they also had like bad backs, and they're not necessarily like the fastest or most in shape. And I think Giannis, when he steps on the court, is just an athletic freak in nature and one of the fastest on the court. So like unless he suffers a really bad knee or leg injury, I just don't see him really fizzling out like that, or at least like recently in extent.
Again, we also said the same thing about LeBron James too. When LeBron gets hurt, remember LeBron was, as you get older, you need to keep your career going. LeBron has done a very good job and has done a much better job of nailing jump shots later in his career than he was, his first run with Cleveland. He wasn't a real great jump shooter. Hakeem Olajuwon worked with, with LeBron's credit. He worked with Hakeem Olajuwon this summer. They lost to the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals with the Miami Heat. He spent all summer with Olajuwon. He moved himself to Houston, and he just worked. And he showed him how to work in the post. He learned how to do a little bit of everything. And you got to give him credit. You have to give him credit for that. And that's something I don't think a lot of NBA players, you don't see a lot of improvement on a lot of NBA players. And Jeremy, I have to ask you this question. I'm dying to know. We're talking about this, not Giannis, but Joel Embiid. How do you feel about having your 7-foot center shoot 3-pointers?
If he can do it, he can do it. That pretty much is a cheat code for any team that's playing against him. Because back in the day, you had centers posting up or catching lobs or being a defensive anchor. But Joel Embiid, he can shoot from anywhere. And if it weren't for his injury history, Joel Embiid would probably be maybe number 2 and number 3 in the NBA, I would say. I mean, his shooting flow is just unmatched. It really is compared to other centers. Yeah.
I think I've been, and I'm going to let you guys get to it in a minute. I appreciate you guys having me on for a minute. Figure because get ready this football playoff game, and also we have I have a conference call about the Nets thing tomorrow. I just want to also ask all three of you guys this one question. The labor agreement is coming up. they just they announced, I think they put a delay on the opt out of being able to opt out of labor agreement. Do you see the players? Well, who has the advantage right now in the NBA as far as labor? If there any type of labor discussion, if you guys are familiar enough with what's going on, I'm pretty up with it on what goes on. Jeremy, I would love to hear, and Brian and Nate, love to hear what your thoughts are on the possible situation of the labor agreement.
Go ahead, Nate, man. You haven't really said much, but go ahead.
That's kind of an interesting question you pose, Randy. I would say some of the players. I actually haven't seen the latest details on the labor agreement as of yet, but I'm not sure which way that will affect it.
I guess I personally don't really have any information, like in-depth information on that. Randy, could you probably elaborate a little more on that? And
Sure.
see
So,
yeah.
the last labor agreement, which was, I believe, back in 2011.
Yeah.
I think they might have had one more since then. The players, the owners went off pretty well on the last two. But the one thing that the players want to lower the limit back to 18 years old.
Yeah.
And they want full guaranteed contract no matter what, no cut clause. Even if you sign a contract the next day and your arm comes off at soccer.
See, I guess so that you're saying that the new labor agreements are going to I guess enact like players that want to go play into the draft. They come from high school. They don't have to play a year in college.
Correct.
Is that correct? So I used to think that should be accessible for any player coming out of high school. But here's the thing: there's a lot of players that, I mean, I guess the anomalies are Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, LeBron James. Who else was
which I'll prove
coming out of high school
about that? But go on. I want to hear you.
Yeah, there are a lot of players that came out of high school during the 90s and the 2000s that became busts, draft busts, and it cost a lot of money on the team and their investment on them. And either that or they got injured. They were injury prone. It's those two things. You know, I could name the prime suspect, Kwame Brown, number 1 overall pick in 2000 or 2001.
It was, I think it was 2001, yeah.
2001,
and
yeah.
Another player that I could name or think, I think Andrew Bynum came out of high school into the NBA.
He did. Yeah, he did. He had a good stretch of seasons when the Lakers were back-to-back champions. But then after he got traded because they had knee issues, his knee issues kept getting more prevalent after he got traded to the 76ers. And his career was pretty much over after that.
Kwame Brown is one of the few players that ever told me off in the locker room.
Oh, what? You got a story?
I got a story.
Oh, shoot. Go ahead.
He was playing for the Detroit Pistons.
Okay.
And I went into the locker room and I went over to him and I said, "Minute, you sure?" I said to him, you've had a long career so far. What are the things you learned? He goes, "Man, get the beep out of my face." And I'm like, "What did I say?"
Yikes!
That's a valid question.
The PR, it wasn't a bad question. The PR director looks at me, he goes, "I'm sorry." He's like, he's just not good with reporters. I said, he's been years already.
Did he have another bad game out of the rest of the bad games he had?
I think you could count on 2 hands on how many good games he's had. Compared to he had a stretch in Washington after Michael Jordan left him, and they had Jordan and Michael Corrin coaches for him, but it just never really materialized. But one of the things you just mentioned before, you mentioned Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant. Those guys came into the NBA out of high school, but it took them 3 to 4 years to really find their footing in the NBA.
It's true.
So that's almost like the equivalent of being in college. I had a real Bill Ingram and I hosted a Hardwood Huddle, and we had quite a few major people on the show, and we brought up the age limit in the NBA, equivalent to job training. If you're in college, you're job training to become a professional basketball player. You do not leave medical school early to become a doctor. You do not leave school early to become an accountant. You go there and you get your training for your job. Back to doing with the NBA. I think they really should raise the age limit. If you decide you want to come out at the age of 18 and 19, that's fine. But if you're going to play in the NBA itself, you should be 21, 22, 23 years old. And that is the purpose of your G League. And you can draft a kid and then put him down in the G League. Your coaching staffs are work together with your G League so they understand what the system is. And then within a couple of years, they can get bought up. What it also does, it also makes your G League more marketable because then you can come down and see the draft pick and see how they develop. You know what I mean? It's not every NFL draft pick. Or
I guess I can kind of see what you're saying. What you're saying about that, about how you want to wait till players, get older into their early 20s to go for the draft in the NBA. But of course, you got anomalies like LeBron James. Like you got players who made a huge impact in the first week of the NBA season, who are 19, 20 years old. So I think that there should be the option, but teams have to make better decisions. They shouldn't draft somebody with the 30th overall pick who's 18 years old. They shouldn't be doing that. There should be sort of like maybe a draft compensation bonus, more than there already is. I know there's already a signing bonus for like the top 5 drafts, right? But for people who are drafted, for players who are drafted maybe in the second round or maybe late first round, there has to be a certain age limit for that, maybe, or maybe just send it to the G League like they usually do. I mean, it's a very complicated thing to approach.
I think if they actually created a system that can work, they'll get paid if they're a draft pick. So, like, think about how the game would get cleaned up if you actually set the age limit and you are ready to play in that moment. And I think that's one of the things that's really changed from the early to mid 90s to the late 90s, early 2000s to now. You have so many first round draft picks who never even see the court in their career. Do you know when the last senior was taken in the top 5 of the NBA draft? Don't ask me why I know the stat. But the last time a senior was taken in the top 5 of the NBA draft was 2006. And Sheldon Williams.
College senior?
The last college senior.
Sheldon Williams. Okay, yeah. I'm familiar with that. Yeah, Sheldon Williams. Yeah. I'm familiar with that.
That's a pretty scary stat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just there. Do you guys remember playing NBA 2K15 or 2K16? And you played My Career, and like you were like 21, 22 years old, and you were pretty much undrafted as a player. And then when you were trying to get yourself workouts, you were 22, 23. If you set the difficulty to like Hall of Fame, it would be downright impossible to get a decent rotation minutes spread for your player. You have to like put it all the way back to rookie and like work your way up in the easy way and buy VC to get into the rotation and then in the starting lineup. So it's funny how you mentioned that how like the realism, if you really put it on highest difficulty, it really shows how realistic it might be for players who are 22, 23 who enter the NBA draft after they graduate from college or they come out of the college as a college senior. So I do see that dilemma there in that case.
Yeah, because it's just like back to the point about like developmental. So like when you're in college, college and the NBA are just completely 2 different games. So like when you're going to the college is kind of like your learning like maturity period, and then you get to the NBA. And obviously, they're going to want someone that's younger because in the draft, it's anywhere from 18 to 22, like for your college years. And they're still going to have the same adjustment period. But if you get someone that's 18 as opposed to 21, that's 3 more years of like learning process that you have them for and like going to team control. Because a 22-year-old's like, say, a senior in college, by the time their like 4-year rookie deal is up, they're already 26. So like, who knows how much left they could have in their prime going forward for that.
That's true as well. Good point.
Yeah. Boys, it was good hanging with you.
Thanks for the input, Randy.
You can go back to your regularly scheduled fun.
And, all right.
And we're good, brother. All right, guys, have a good show, okay?
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
See you. I actually do want to keep going with this subject. I mean, there were some times where he was like kind of cutting in and out, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that happening for you guys
Yeah.
too?
yeah, it was happening for me too as
Mhm.
well. So, but it's all right. I don't really edit podcasts. I just kind of upload it as a raw file. But to be honest, I think that teams, if you make a choice to draft 18-year-olds, people coming straight out of high school, that's your risk. That's your responsibility to make sure that they develop into a player that you aspire them to be. Like that's on you. It shouldn't be the league rules to help benefit the team that chooses to make those risks. But I mean, then you have to take account for ticket sales and payroll for the team and stuff like that. So that also takes an impact on that as well. So I mean, to be honest, I just think it should be just a fair game for any player that over the age of 18. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, because like to look at it as like a real life example, like taking a flyer on a kid out of high school is like doing like stocks and like stock trading and like the real world. Like you're doing an investment, you're putting your time and effort into this kid, and you hope it pans out like the stock. So it's like shouldn't really be like
yeah,
anything on the player. Like they're good enough. Like the player's good enough. Like you want me, like stuff like that. So like I'm not too sure with like the bargaining agreement that like Randy was talking about, but I feel like the players definitely have the advantage in that side, especially in terms of like negotiating full term deals because like they can also just sit out if they're not happy, and it's like I feel like the players always get their way as opposed to
yeah.
management.
And usually players make the decision for themselves. If they know they're not ready for the NBA, they'll go for another year in college and of course get better. But you kind of have to also account for the way college basketball is being played and how it's two 20-minute quarters or two 20-minute half times
Halves,
and
yeah.
halves and stuff. So and also the 3-point line is not as long. It's more of a neck and neck game. It's more entertaining. It's not blowouts usually like the NBA
Mhm.
does, and it's also a high commodity for financial gain and also for sports betting and for people who went to the college and love the team that they supported when they were a student. Like of course you got Kentucky, you got UNC, you've got UCLA, you've got all these important college teams, of course, that are really into college basketball. I mean, March Madness is coming up in the next 2 months, so there's money to be made there too, and that's why college basketball is still one of the more popular and more important sports in the country.
Yeah, I think especially this year, and like I wish I mentioned this earlier, but with like look at how much NIL, like name, image, likeness, has done for the game. Like allowing college athletes to get paid more, and I think that's kind of why they're like some college athletes are staying is because they can get paid and like still develop their game. And like obviously you have the schools like Duke and Kentucky that are like the one and dones, but then you have UNC, like programs like UNC in Kentucky where they usually stay for like their 3 or 4 years and like maximize their potential. Um, and then also like before NIL though, like back to like I like what the NBA did now with the whole like you can go to the G League Ignite or like you can go overseas because guys like LaMelo Ball were doing that instead of going to college, and he kind of changed the game and he made like a huge impact his rookie year in the NBA anyway. So
Yeah, and the Hornets are like 11-42 or something.
oh, they're garbage, but I'm saying like LaMelo Ball is
I
entertaining.
mean, I'm not even like covering the Hornets at all. I don't even like pay attention to the team. Like, is LaMelo playing or is he injured? He has to be. He's got to be injured, honestly. Can someone check that for me?
He missed a good chunk of time early in the season, but I think from what I saw, he's back active and healthy as of late.
What are they doing?
Yeah, he's playing.
What are they doing?
They don't have Bridges.
Yeah. Miles Bridges, is also
Bridges,
important too. But still, like LaMelo Ball's, he's a borderline all-star. He's better than his brother.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't really have a good team around him. I mean, he's one of the greatest players of all time, but I don't think Michael Jordan is necessarily the best owner.
He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
I don't think he cares. he just wants to play golf and make bets on playing golf with his buddies. And that's pretty much what he does now these days. And he also sits courtside when he feels like it.
Yeah.
Nate, you cover Cleveland, correct?
Yeah, Cleveland sports.
Yeah, of course. Sure. Tell us about the Cavaliers and how they're doing.
Well, they actually just came off of a nice comeback win today against the New Orleans Pelicans, 113-103.
It's a good win.
But some bad news on the injury front, as Donovan Mitchell is reported to have sustained I believe it's a strained left hamstring.
Ooh. Okay, so about 3 weeks out.
Yeah,
Minimum 3 weeks out.
but
That's okay. I mean, they got Darius Garland.
Yep. So as of right now, that win puts them at 28-17 on the season. They're just a half game behind Milwaukee for the Central Division lead.
Yeah, I do see what Randy was talking about. How like he's still trying to figure out where the Cavs are going, where they're headed as a team, and losing Mitchell is a big blow, definitely to their squad, especially when they're trying to gun for a playoff spot and be a playoff contender. Because I mean, they do have the talent. They've got young players. They've got a huge window right now, especially with the addition of Mitchell this season.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then their next game, they're traveling to Memphis, and then the rest of this week they've got a back-to-back at home, taking on the Warriors Friday night, and then Milwaukee Saturday night.
Okay, it's gonna be a tough schedule for sure. Definitely feel like the next 3 or 4 games for them. Before I get to my Rockets and my rant, how about Brian? How about you update us on the Knicks?
All right, so Knicks were on a nice little 3-game win streak, and then they played MLK Day against the Raptors, which I think the Knicks playing on MLK Day is like a little tradition starting, because I know they played against the Hawks last year on MLK Day, but lost in overtime in a great game to the Raptors. It wasn't like one of those like surprising or like embarrassing games the Knicks blew away that I wrote an article on like last week, but they definitely they should have won the game. They were up 8. Once again, free throws cost the Knicks. Randall missed a free throw. Brunson missed a free throw, and then in overtime, Brunson didn't play the best. They lost 123-121. The officiating wasn't the best, especially late. There was one play where Quentin Grimes like fought his way for a rebound and like kind of just midair gets tackled, but on like right out of bounds, they called a loose ball foul on Randall. So that was like kind of frustrating. Scotty Barnes was struggling from the free throw line, but then Lady hit like 2 clutch free throws and starts like pumping his fist up, like kind of waving off the Knicks crowd. So that's interesting to watch. But they're back at it on Wednesday against the Wizards at home. 25-20 had the 6th seed, 3 games back behind the Cavaliers. They're playing pretty much like the same type of basketball, not really like much different. But the only thing that's interesting though is, can the Knicks hold on to the 6th seed? Because I think it's going to be tough. And obviously with the change of the new playoff format, if they lose the 6th seed, they would be in a playoff format in the play-in. So it's very important to keep a 6th seed, which is weird to say.
Just got to keep Jalen Brunson healthy.
Yeah, I mean, Brunson and Randall are both playing great basketball lately. Both are all-star caliber players. I just saw on the win against the Wizards, I believe. No, the win against the Pistons yesterday. Julius Randle passed Bernard King for 25th in franchise scoring, which is impressive. So,
I don't know if you know, but we do a little bit of Jalen Brunson appreciation moments here. So every time we talk about Jalen Brunson, we hope to see if he like watches our podcast, just out of curiosity. So Jalen Brunson, we appreciate you. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I love the way you play, and I know Brian does too. Did he freeze up?
No, I did. You did freeze for me earlier, but
Okay.
Jalen Brunson, I do love you. If I wasn't a broke college kid, I'd probably buy your jersey. But
Absolutely. Yeah. Be sure whenever we post it on Twitter, Nate, you'll see that we try to add Jalen Brunson as much as we can.
Right.
We are a Jalen Brunson appreciation podcast.
Right.
What we are not an appreciation podcast for is the Houston Rockets. All right. Time to rant. There's a silver lining to this, I promise you. But the Rockets lost, I don't know, their 4th or 5th straight game against the Clippers. They were so close. After 3 quarters, they were neck and neck. And, of course, they do as they always do. They blow the lead in the 4th quarter. Now, I know this is a rebuilding season, and you're thinking to yourself, Jeremy, calm down. Relax. They're rebuilding. They're not playoff ready. Okay? They still have to develop their players. And I'm like, yes. But I respond to you, and I say, but they have to be growing. They have to have some sort of progression towards something. They don't know where they're going. They don't know how the rotations mix. What I do have to be impressed about, aside from the fact that Deshaun Nix scored 1 point in 36 minutes and should be out of the rotation and back in the G League. Deshaun Nix is a G League star. He's a G League superstar. Okay? But in the NBA, he looks lost out there. In 36 minutes, I would have just shot a 3 from half court and did better than him. Okay, had more points than him. I can shoot 3s from half court pretty well. I know I can. All right, but I saw like so many montages of his turnovers. There's a point where Brunson's like driving to the basket, expecting Gordon to like to bear right to the top of the key of the wing, but Gordon's sitting at the wing. He's sitting at the left wing, and Brunson's like driving to the basket, and then like as he goes underneath, he throws it right at the referee, right at the ref, and like Houston broadcasters were just like, oh, that does not look good, and then the Clippers broadcasters were laughing. Broadcasters were laughing in Los Angeles. Aside from that, the Rockets did lose 100 to 121, but they did it without their 3 key players, or 2 key players. KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr., is out with an injury. Jalen Green, and I believe, was it Tari Eason? I believe Tari Eason and Jalen Green, correct me if I'm wrong, they were suspended for 1 game after the little scuffle against the Kings in the last game because they both jumped up out of their bench and they were suspended for 1 game. So they had Deshaun Nix starting, not Ty Washington, which they should have started. I don't know why. And they had KJ Martin, Alpi Şengün starting as well. And for the first 3 quarters, that felt like a complete team. They were sharing the ball. They were doing offhand passes. They were doing screens. No ISOs were involved with these Rockets. They were actually playing team basketball. Then, of course, there's not much talent after Jalen Green and KPJ. Okay, if you just have Jabari Smith, who's a rookie who needs more development, and Alpi Şengün, then you're not going to really sustain a Kawhi Leonard Clippers team. So, of course, they squandered the lead like usual. What else is new in the 4th quarter? But there was something nice to see about that. You had a lot of really good playmaking from Alperen Şengün. KJ Martin really deserves a starting spot. He really does. I don't know why Silas refuses to start him, but he needs to. KJ Martin deserves a starting spot. And if I were him, and like last year when he requested a trade, I guarantee you any other rebuilding team would start him as small forward. I don't know what Silas is doing. He should probably be fired. Just to be honest, just laying out there, he should definitely be fired. I don't know. He's just not the coach for the Rockets during this rebuilding era. He's just not it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, your Houston Rocket rants are probably what I look forward to the most about it each week. Because not only are they true, as passionate as you are, but everything you say makes sense. I definitely think Silas should be fired because honestly, what Silas and the Rockets are doing this year is what the Knicks have done for before like this year and last year for like the last like 7 of just losing with no direction. And with like the way the NBA is going, you have to have a direction if you're rebuilding, which it just seems like the Rockets aren't doing. I mean, I think the only solution to being how terrible they are is if you fire your head coach and also get Victor Wembanyama. But it just seems like there's no sense of direction. I mean, I've never seen a rebuilding team still start Eric Gordon. That's another thing. But
he looks unhappy, very frustrated as usual. I mean, he's every single post game interview I've seen from the Rockets beat writers. He just the only time he cracked a smile was media day, and that was back in September.
Yeah. So I mean, and the thing is too is like it would be like a match made in heaven for both for both parties if he leaves, because Gordon still can help a championship contending team. So he'd go somewhere where he's not disgruntled, and the Rockets probably can get some draft capital or like future assets for him. Like, I don't really understand what's going on over there in H-Town,
and he did a really good job during the Clippers this last game. He scored 24 points. He was pretty much all over the floor. He hit 50% from the field. He was very aggressive on the offensive end. And honestly, I don't know what the Rockets are doing, but they should record that and send it to like any other team. Like, hey, like this is a good player you should trade for. Give us a first round pick, please. Like, he's still valuable. But no team's gonna do that. No team's gonna give up a first round pick for Eric Gordon.
yeah, probably not.
Maybe an unprotected first round pick, but like honestly, at the most, a second round, like 2 second rounders for Eric Gordon.
Yeah, maybe like a future first, like in like 2026 or something.
Yeah, because I mean, as well as he's playing, and as well as he's still a valuable player on any team, any contending team. But he's 34 years old. You probably have maybe 2 or 3 decent years from him, and then after that, he's probably going to retire, or he's not going to be in the league. But other than that, I mean, if the Rockets are only going to allow a first-round pick for Eric Gordon, then they expect on keeping him or just sit him for the rest of the season, and just give more development to other players. He's not the type of veteran player that has that presence. He's still hungry for a ring. I know it. You can see it in his post-game interviews. He just looks frustrated out there. Nate, I have a question for you.
What's up?
How can we be you guys? How can we be the Cleveland Cavaliers? Because I know you guys were struggling for the first couple of years when you drafted Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, but it was so back. I remember it being so like odd from outside fans. They were like, "Why are the Cavs drafting Darius Garland after they drafted their point guard already? Like, what happened with that? How did
I don't know. It's just at first I was confused, but then really once Garland seemed to find his mojo early in his rookie season, he started to develop kind of that alpha dog role, if you will, and Sexton just never really clicked. And eventually, as you saw, he ended up getting shipped to Utah for Mitchell, as well as Lauri Markkanen, who I thought had a pretty decent 2021-22 season with the Cavs, and I was a little disappointed to see Markkanen be traded, but at the same time, with how Mitchell's been playing before the injury, I'd say it's kind of been a win-win trade for both sides, if you will.
Oh, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I mean, Markkanen's going off on the Jazz. I mean, of course, they've come back down to earth and to that hot start, but still, like, Markkanen has been given the keys to be either the number 2 or number 1 player on the Utah Jazz. Plus he's white, so Utah loves that. It's true. Have you seen like videos of Russell Westbrook being like, racially profiled over there?
Yeah.
Don't mean to like slip that in, but what was I going to say? So you mentioned Darius Garland, how he found his mojo, And of course, you see the Cleveland front office and the head coach realize, okay, this guy looks like the face of our team. Let's build around him. We don't do that in Houston, apparently. We don't do that. We have Şengün, who you can definitely build around. He's like he's like a Nikola Jokic light. Okay, he even mentioned in interviews that he's his idol. Okay, and they just give him like 25, 26 minutes per game, and they sit him out in like moments where he's needed the most, especially when Green and KPJ are just chucking up shots from three, and there's no defense from them either.
Mind you, Kevin Porter Jr. was on the Cavs at one point, so
but he's found a good home here. He's a good
I would definitely say now that he's kind of kept his emotions in check, he's become a solid point guard / 2 guard.
I would say he's in the wrong role. He's not a true facilitator. He's just in that position because Silas is experimenting on that, and I think that we can keep him if this season he does well as that role in that position. That's why they signed him to that contract where like they can opt out after the first year to that contract extension. But I see him as a 6-man, like a Jordan Clarkson type of role, or what do you call it, Jamal Crawford role back when he was in his prime, something like that. I just don't see him as a facilitator. He's a very streaky scorer, which is great as a 6-man. And then Jalen Green, of course, you have the score, but for point guard purposes, I mean, I'm not sure where to place that because the Rockets have no bench. They have pretty much no versatility on their bench. They have Tari Eason, who's probably one of the best, and they have KJ Martin. But Usman Garuba doesn't really do much. Josh Christopher isn't really doing much. Deshaun Nix needs to be eradicated from the sport. Yeah, I think that's it on my rant. We can talk. We're done with that.
I might go on a rant right now, actually. So
go ahead.
It was just reported that in that Knicks Raptors game, Scotty Barnes, I mentioned earlier, was doing the stuff with the fans. After, keep in mind, going 9 for 13 from the free throw line, which is only 69.2%. So I guess so cool. You're not the best free throw shooter you thought you were. But he also pointed at Quentin Grimes and said, "You is not him." And Jeremy, I believe we talked last episode about talking trash and when's the right time to do it. How often does it happen? Mm-hmm. I don't know how you can talk trash to when you're 20-24, 4 games under as the 11th seed. Like Scotty Barnes, you are a good player. You're the reigning rookie of the year. But and I know you like to try to have your little MSG moment, but when you're shooting 69% from the field and you're an 11 seed, I feel like you just don't earn that right. But it's okay, buddy. Maybe you'll get up to a 10 seed. Maybe it'll be a play-in team.
I think you should probably be allowed to trash talk if you can hold it, if you can demonstrate it without talking. If you can talk the walk, or sorry, talk the walk. If you can talk the talk, can you walk the walk? Like teams that obliterate teams that aren't as good as them can trash talk. Contending teams can trash talk if they hold their own. But if teams that are up, like I said last week, if teams that are up by 30 points and they're trash talking and they blow that lead, then you shouldn't be trash talking in the first place. You have to own it. As much as I love trash talking, as much as because it heightens the entertainment of the NBA. I mean, I support that Zion unwritten rule dunk. I support it. I think that was awesome. I mean, the Pelicans are top 5 seed. The Suns are now a bottom 9th seed. I think they're 2 games under 500. So do it, man. Trash talk your shit, man. That's what I do. That's what I think that should happen. So
yeah, I might just be salty the way the Knicks lost, but as an 11 seed, I just feel like you don't earn that right. Although Barnes, free throw line aside, he did have a good game. He went 1 for 2 from 3, 8 for 16 from the field or something like that. So
Yeah, I mean I guess it's just like the heat of the moment, you know.
Yeah,
When two teams are neck and neck, they're trying to they're trying to change the confidence of the opposing team, maybe impact it in a negative way because people are teams are trying to win. So if you're trying to win, of course you may do that, and you're also in MSG. You're in New York, Manhattan. Like it's like I said, it's like Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. So it's primetime television. Yeah, I can see why he did that. But then again, you mentioned they're an 11th seed. They're a sub 500 team, and the Knicks are a 6th seed. So, it's. I think it just depends on the person. It's a case by case basis.
yeah.
What about you? What do you think, Nate?
Yeah. Usually, when you trash talk, things don't go well. You might end up with one of these.
A technical?
T.
A T?
Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean that's you risk that, but again, it's all about trying to change the confidence of the other team, trying to lower it.
yeah, definitely be that guy that gets under an opposing player's skin, which I know Patrick Beverly does a lot.
Oh yeah, dude. I don't like Beverly, honestly.
I
like
don't
him.
either.
Like after he cried whenever he won against the play-in tournament when he was on the Wolves. Okay.
Yeah.
And when he cried, are you fucking kidding me? I love that whole bit on Inside the NBA where like Barkley and Shaq, they're just like, the Timberwolves just won the NBA Finals. And, like they just won the NBA Finals. Good night, America. See you later. And Beverly's just like crying. I'm like, dude, you're gonna get bounced in the first round, and you did. Like,
Yeah, honestly, I think one of the funniest instigators in the league is Lance Stevenson. I think the funniest like mind game ever was when he blew in LeBron's ear.
Right.
Oh, dude,
yeah.
that was awesome. I mean, I give for anything to see Lance Stevenson in the NBA again. Like,
and that was when he was good too. Like he was a solid, like above
good,
average pacer.
Yeah, no, he was only good on the Pacers though.
Oh yeah.
When he was on other teams, he just like fell off a little bit. But yeah, I do miss those trash talking moments or those like weird moments where he's just pretty much himself the whole time, and he's like just doing these weird acts, these antics. Yeah, those were good times. Heat,
Yeah,
whenever LeBron was playing the Heat, and then like Heat and Pacers rivalry from like 2012 to like 2014.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice.
Or we got the fake tough guy Jordan Clarkson, always looking for a fight, will never do anything.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's like been multiple pictures going around. There was this Jazz game where there was a fight, and he actually like stood up and was like ready to fight someone, but then didn't do anything. And then I saw a tweet that he's like that Jordan Clarkson's in fights is 0-4, 4 standoffs, 0 punches thrown.
it's like getting like the Tony Snell moment.
Yeah, literally. Or like a Shaq and a Fool moment right there.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to see if I can like show videos on the recording, because I do want to do like Shaq and a Fool stuff. I like watching that kind of stuff and kind of just showing it to my friends.
Yeah, those are fun.
Because we tried doing a couple weeks ago on our third episode, Nate, we tried showing a video about Steven Silas just acting all awkward and weird on post games, and how like he's saying rebuilding is hard, but the sound wasn't there. So let me see if I can try and toy with that and figure out if how is like the easiest way to show videos on the pod.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like Shaq and a Fool moments, though, like you don't necessarily. I know it obviously helps, but you don't necessarily need the sound.
Oh, we don't. Oh, I mean that's true. That's true. Also, copyright reasons too. We don't want to do that. That's probably not ideal. But yeah, we got about 6 minutes away from an hour. Do you guys want to chime in anything else?
Did you want to wrap it here? Or do you want to go and talk about the Trae Young stuff, like the Hawks?
Oh, Trae Young Hawks. That's right. There were some news reports about maybe the Hawks trading Trae Young instead of John Collins. Mainly due to the fact that the Hawks are sort of a sub 500 team. They're mediocre, and they got DeJounte Murray for the reason to be back in the top 5 seeding, to be back as a contending team. But they're not really doing that well. And also Trae Young's having a down year. His 3-point percentage is around 31% from the field compared to 39% from the field. He doesn't have those Steph Curry numbers that he used to. And I'm saying that as if like Trae Young's been around the league for forever, but he's only been around the league for like 4 seasons. And his 2 good years were last season and the season prior. So I just want to know what y'all's thoughts are on that, just to see if the Hawks might actually get a win-win situation by trading away their franchise star.
Yeah, I'm not really for it. Trading Trae. They drafted him to be their guy. When they made that draft day trade with Dallas for Luka, he's their guy. It's supposed to build around him. Yeah, they're having a down year, but and also there's a reason John Collins has been on the trade block for not only this year and last year. It's just I don't know if it's a team fit. His career is definitely kind of taken a slow downhill slope since his rookie and sophomore season. And I don't know if this is necessarily like a hot take, but I think Atlanta should do what Cleveland is doing and kind of just do like the solid guard duo and Trae and Murray, and then the solid like twin tower big man and Onyeka Okongwu and Capella, because I think Onyeka Okongwu is a pretty good player, and I think he'd complement Capella well, and it would just help Trae give another man to lob the ball up to. And I know with Atlanta's biggest problem being defense, I think adding a big in there could help solve that issue.
So you're saying add or put Onyeka Okongwu and Clint as
together,
a power forward
and then
center.
you trade Capella.
Oh,
you trade John Collins.
Oh, okay. That might be a good idea. I mean, Capella has always been that your prototypical rim protector. He's not really doing much. He just catches lobs and does rim protection. He has a good post up move back when he was in Houston, and I'm pretty sure as he's gotten older, he's mastered that. But that would actually be a pretty good trade idea for the Hawks. I mean, there's always those John Collins trade rumors, And
I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, we said go ahead at the same time. What were you saying?
I was just saying, look at what Cleveland's doing. Like, they have their Garland and Mitchell, and then they have their Mobley, Jared Allen, and it seems like it's going well for them. And like trading John Collins doesn't like necessarily hurt them because they have like solid pieces that can step in. They have Bogdan Bogdanovic, they have DeAndre Hunter, they have the rookie AJ Griffin, they have Jalen Johnson. Like, there's guys that can step up. So it's not like trading John Collins is a huge loss where he's the star. Like, trading Trae Young would be a step back for them because he's their star. And like, I know he's having a bad year this year, or like from 3, but like, what would a trade package even look like for Trae? Like, what is Atlanta trying to do by trading Trae? Because like you said, they're 500, but they're
break up the team. I don't know. I don't think that's like the right move or the right idea.
Yeah, they're the 9 seed. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, retool and just get rid of one good player and get a bunch of others? Like, are you gonna rebuild at that point? Like, you have Capella, you just got DeJounte Murray. Like, you shouldn't be rebuilding. You should be either retool. You shouldn't even be retooling. You should try to get better because, like, right now, like, record isn't necessarily a big indication. Like, I would take in a playoff series, I would take the Hawks over the Pacers. I'd take the Hawks over the Knicks. Hawks and Heat depends on what team's healthy. If they're both healthy, I'd say the Heat though. But like, the Hawks are a better team than their record says. So I don't really get what's going on over there in Atlanta. I don't think they should trade Trae. Like if it's one thing if he's unhappy, but it seems like he enjoys being there. I just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think any team would love to have John Collins. Any team. I just think it's sort of the trade package there because John Collins does have that big contract. So it is going to be an issue, and a lot of teams aren't going to be willing to give up a lot for John Collins and his production value. So the Hawks are, if the Hawks know like the talent that Collins has, and yeah, that he has talent, they're going to want a lot more than teams are willing to give.
Yeah.
So it is sort of an interesting situation with respect to them thinking that, okay, John Collins and Trae Young are going to be our future, but then the constant seasons of him being in trade rumors because they don't know where to put him. They have no idea how to use Collins in the best way, and especially with Trae Young facilitating the floor, and because with Young being a facilitator, he's going to have a lot of assists. That's his game, assists and threes, right? So a supporting player in the lineup would only benefit if they're either a spot up shooter or if they're like a Clint Capella, And of course, you got DeJounte Murray, who's there for defense. He's also there for mid-range jumpers and athleticism. So, it's kind of a weird situation for Collins because he's just not that. He's not a Clint Capella. He's not a DeJounte Murray. He's more of a stretch four, and it's kind of difficult for a team like the Atlanta Hawks to place him in that position for him to do well.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you, Nate? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say Collins is more of the odd man out in Atlanta, unfortunately. I don't agree with trading Trae Young.
I guess it's just sort of a rumor that will spark a lot of conversations. So maybe it's not really going to happen. Like Brian said, I'm sure Trae loves the city of Atlanta and where he plays, and to me this just seems like a down year. And of course they got like 3 months left in the regular season. So and they have a little less than half of the games played left to go. So they could pull a Miami Heat and be a 500 team until January, and then catch a huge win streak down the stretch because a lot of NBA teams, especially the ones that are rebuilding, they win more games in March and April.
Yeah, they did it 2 years ago after they fired Lloyd Pierce and then hired Nate McMillan, and they got to the 5th seed and they beat the Knicks in the first round. And then did they make it to the conference finals that year? I don't remember.
Yeah. They made the conference finals. They beat Philadelphia.
That's right. Yeah.
In an upset. And also they beat your Knicks.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was not meant to be said. I mean, it was the first round. I mean, but Young is the villain of New York City.
Oh yeah,
they still boo him every single game. They still.
Oh yeah, they even do it at literally. New York hates Trae Young so much that they for the longest time were booing him at Yankee games. Like it would be Yankees, White Sox, and they're just saying "F Trae Young."
Fuck Trae Young.
They literally just fuck Trae Young. I'd argue that Jose Altuve is more of a villain in New York than Trae Young, but
I cheated. So my Astros cheated. So
I'm
willing to say that. I'm willing to admit that they did, even though Altuve didn't cheat himself, but he was a culprit. Not a culprit. He was complicit.
I don't know. Him and Correa's buzzers say otherwise, but different sport. I digress.
We can go in the argument if you want. Like that, I can definitely make any sort of evidence to prove Altuve as not individually cheating. So just FYI. Maybe we should do a baseball podcast. Baseball and basketball.
Maybe.
We'll see. All right. Well, with that being said, I think we'll end this podcast about now. It's a good time. Had a good time. Appreciate you, Nate, for coming on. Again, you're more than welcome to come on the podcast every Monday, 6 p.m. Central. Also, I haven't done this. This is the 5th episode. Follow us on Twitter. Nate has his Twitter handle on his account, or not account, on his webcam. So we should have our Twitter accounts as well. I think I'll just add the Twitter handles on the in post production. But yeah, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe, and yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.